Have you ever looked at your life, a life that is objectively good, and still felt a faint, constant ache of sadness you can't explain? A quiet melancholy that lingers behind your smile, a feeling you quickly push down, ashamed. The inner critic whispers, "You should be grateful. What is wrong with you?" What if nothing is wrong with you? What if that sadness is not a sign of ingratitude, but a sign of a soul that is waking up? This is the most counterintuitive truth in all of shadow work. That strange, quiet sadness is a form of grief. Not the grief for what you have lost, but the grief for the parts of you that were never allowed to live. It is the soul's mourning for the unlived life. The artist who became an accountant, the adventurer who stayed home, the leader who learned to be silent. These are not just forgotten dreams. They are ghost selves that walk beside you. And their sadness is a sacred communication. Carl Jung knew that this was a critical and often misunderstood part of the healing journey. Today, we are not going to push this feeling away. We are going to honor it. First, we will understand why this grief is not a grave meant to trap you in the past, but a gateway meant to liberate your future. Then we will explore how this unprocessed grief silently drains your energy, manifesting as resentment and burnout. And finally, I will guide you through a gentle, powerful ritual to process this sadness, to honor your ghost selves, and to reclaim the wisdom they hold for you. This is not a conversation about regret. It is a profound act of love for your entire journey. To begin this sacred work, give yourself permission. Share your intention in the comments below. Write, "I am ready to enter the gateway." This unseen grief, it is the quietest guest at the table of your soul. But it is also the most persistent. You may have a good life, a loving family, a stable job, and for this you are grateful. But this grief does not speak the language of gratitude. It speaks the language of potential. It is the sadness for the paths not taken, the songs not sung, the selves you could have become if life or choices or circumstances had been different. It is the mourning for the ghosts of potential. Let's call these ghosts by their names. There is the ghost of the artist, the one who put away her paintbrushes to pursue a more sensible career. There is the ghost of the traveler, the one who packed her bags in her dreams but never left due to family obligations. There is the ghost of the fierce advocate, the one who learned to quiet her passionate voice in order to keep the peace. These are not failures. They are sacrifices. And every sacrifice deserves to be mourned. But it is so hard to acknowledge this grief. Why? First, there is the voice of guilt. The inner critic immediately accuses you of being ungrateful. It says, "Look at all you have. How dare you be sad for what you don't have?" This voice mistakes honoring the past for betraying the present. Let's think about Chloe, our nurse. She has a beautiful life. She loves her children. She is proud of her work. But recently, after doing some journaling, she felt a profound sadness for the marine biologist she dreamed of becoming in college. She imagined a life of research, of oceans, of quiet discovery. Her immediate next thought was guilt. How can I even think that? I love my family. I wouldn't trade them for anything. She tries to push the sadness away, labeling it as selfish and foolish. But the ache remains. The second reason this grief is so hard to acknowledge is because our society has no rituals for it. We have funerals for the people we lose, we have ceremonies to mark the end of relationships, but there is no public ritual for a dead dream. There is no socially acceptable way to say, "Today I am mourning the musician I never became." And so this grief becomes a private, isolating experience. We feel strange and we feel alone in it. And the third, deepest reason we avoid it is the fear of regret. We are terrified that if we touch this sadness, even for a moment, we will be consumed by it. We fear we will open a Pandora's box of what-ifs and should-haves that will poison our present with a sense of irreversible failure. We believe that facing this grief is a grave, that it will bury us in the past. But here is the profound, counterintuitive truth that Carl Jung's work illuminates for us. This grief is not a grave. It is a gateway. Facing this sadness is not an act of self-torture. It is a necessary and beautiful psychological alchemy. It has a sacred purpose. In fact, it has three. The first function of this grief is that it honors what was lost. When you allow yourself to feel the sadness for the artist who was sacrificed, you are sending a powerful message to that exiled part of your soul. You are saying to her, "I see you. Your existence mattered. Your dream was beautiful. Your sacrifice is acknowledged." For decades, that part of you has been locked away in the shadow, dismissed as impractical or silly. The act of grieving is the act of finally going back to that locked room, opening the door and validating the being who lives there. It is not about wishing your life were different. It is about honoring the full truth of the life you have lived, including the parts that had to be let go. This is a profoundly healing and integrating act. It makes you more whole. The second function of this grief is that it releases stuck energy. Ungrieved sadness is one of the biggest energy leaks in the psychic bank account. It does not simply disappear. It stagnates in your body. It curdles in your soul. It often manifests as a chronic low-grade resentment, a bitterness you can't quite place, or it shows up as apathy and numbness, that feeling of, "I don't really care about anything anymore." This is a defense mechanism of the psyche. It says, if I can't have what I truly longed for, then I will pretend I don't long for anything at all. This is the essence of burnout. It is a state of psychic exhaustion. Tears, in a very literal sense, are the release of this stuck energy. When you allow yourself to cry for that unlived life, you are not just shedding water. You are physically releasing the stored-up biochemical energy of sadness from your body. You are allowing the frozen river inside of you to finally flow. Each tear is a cleansing. It is a letting go. Which brings us to the third and most hopeful function of this grief. It creates fertile emptiness. You cannot plant new seeds in a garden that is choked with the weeds of old, unacknowledged pain. The act of conscious grieving is like patiently, lovingly pulling up those weeds of resentment, of bitterness, of unspoken regret. It is hard work. It is sad work. But it is necessary work. Because after the weeds are gone, what is left? Space. An empty, dark, fertile space within you. It is not the frightening emptiness of a void. It is the sacred emptiness of a womb. It is a fallow field now cleared and ready. Ready for something new to be planted.
ready for a new dream, perhaps smaller, more realistic, but no less sacred, to finally take root in the present. This is why we must not turn away from the sadness. This is why we must have the courage to face our ghosts, because they are not here to haunt us. They are here to heal us. They are the gatekeepers to the next, more authentic chapter of our lives. And the only toll they ask of us is our tears.
Your ego will tell you this is a dangerous act, that to look back is to be lost. But the soul knows a different truth. The soul knows that to heal the present, we must first honor the past. To face this grief is not an act of self-indulgence. It is an act of psychological alchemy, a sacred process with a profound purpose. As we have discussed, this grief is not a grave. It is a gateway. But what does it mean to walk through it? And where does it lead? Let's explore the three sacred functions of this grief, the three transformations that happen when you have the courage to feel it fully. The first function is that it honors what was lost. When you allow yourself to feel the sadness for the artist who was sacrificed, you are sending a powerful message to that exiled part of your soul. You are saying to her, I see you. Your existence mattered. Your dream was beautiful. Your sacrifice is acknowledged. For decades, that part of you has been locked away in the shadow, dismissed as impractical or silly. The act of grieving is the act of finally going back to that locked room, opening the door, and validating the being who lives there. It is not about wishing your life were different. It is about honoring the full truth of the life you have lived, including the parts that had to be let go. This is an act of profound inner diplomacy. It makes you more whole. Let's return to Chloe, our nurse, grieving for the marine biologist she never became. When she allows herself to feel that sadness, she is not betraying her current life as a nurse and mother. She is performing a sacred ritual of remembrance. She is saying to that brilliant, curious younger version of herself, the path you dreamed of was valid and beautiful. The choices I made were also necessary for my journey. I can hold both truths at once. I honor the sacrifice you made so that I could be here today. In that moment, the inner war stops. The part of her that felt rejected finally feels seen and integrated. The second function of this grief is that it releases stuck energy. Ungrieved sadness is one of the biggest energy leaks in the psychic bank account. It does not simply disappear. It stagnates in your body. It curdles in your soul. It often manifests as a chronic low-grade resentment, a bitterness you can't quite place. Or it shows up as apathy and numbness, that feeling of, I don't really care about anything anymore. This is a defense mechanism of the psyche. It says, if I can't have what I truly longed for, then I will pretend I don't long for anything at all. This is the essence of burnout. It is a state of psychic exhaustion. Tears, in a very literal sense, are the release of this stuck energy from your body. You are allowing the frozen river inside of you to finally flow. Each tear is a cleansing. It is a letting go. It is the energy of your past being released so that it no longer drains the energy of your present. Which brings us to the third and most hopeful function of this grief. It creates fertile emptiness. You cannot plant new seeds in a garden that is choked with the weeds of old, unacknowledged pain. The act of conscious grieving is like patiently, lovingly pulling up those weeds of resentment, of bitterness, of unspoken regret. It is hard work. It is sad work. But it is necessary work. Because after the weeds are gone, what is left? Space.
an empty, dark, fertile space within you. It is not the frightening emptiness of a void. It is the sacred emptiness of a womb. It is a fallow field, now cleared and ready for something new to be planted. When Chloe grieves the marine biologist, she is not trying to go back to college. She is pulling up the weed of regret that has been subtly poisoning her present. And in the empty space that is left, a new, smaller, more present-day seed can be planted. Maybe the insight is not, I should have been a scientist. Maybe the insight is, my soul needs a connection to nature and quiet discovery. And from that fertile emptiness, a new, attainable desire can grow. Maybe she buys a small, beautiful aquarium for her home. Maybe she decides to take a solo hike once a month. She is not trying to reclaim the unlived life of the past. She is using the wisdom gained from grieving it to create a more authentic, soul-nourishing life, right now. This is the alchemy. This is the gateway. You see, the sadness is the key that unlocks the door. Honoring the sacrifice is the first step through. Releasing the stuck energy is the feeling of walking down the passageway. And the fertile emptiness you find on the other side, that is the new land. A land where your future is no longer haunted by the ghosts of your past. A land where you are free to plant a new garden.
But what happens if we don't? What is the danger of leaving these ghosts unmourned, these gateways unopened? Unprocessed grief for the unlived life does not fade. It festers. It turns into a quiet poison in the well of your soul. This poison has 3 primary symptoms. The first is chronic resentment. If you do not properly mourn the artist you sacrificed, you will find yourself filled with a bitter, inexplicable resentment toward your friend who is a successful artist. You will judge them. You will minimize their success. Why? Because they are a living reminder of your own exiled potential. Their freedom is a mirror to your own cage. This resentment is your ungrieved sadness projected outwards. The second symptom is apathy and numbness. This is the soul's self-defense mechanism. The psyche says, it was too painful to not get what I truly longed for, so to protect myself, I will no longer long for anything at all. This is the hollow ache of the person who says, I don't know what I want. Nothing really excites me. It is not a lack of passion. It is a profound state of energetic and emotional exhaustion from the constant low-grade work of suppression. And the third symptom is the chaotic eruption of the midlife crisis. The unprocessed grief for the unlived life does not disappear. It accumulates. It builds pressure silently for decades. Until one day, often in our 40s or 50s, the pressure becomes too much, and it breaks everything. The person who suddenly quits their stable job, leaves their family, or makes a reckless decision is often being driven by the screaming ghosts of their unlived life, finally demanding to be heard. But it does not have to be this way. We do not have to wait for the crisis. We can choose to meet this grief consciously, lovingly. We can create our own ritual. So, how do we walk through this gateway with intention, with reverence, and without getting lost? I am going to guide you through a simple, private, and sacred ritual, a ritual to honor the unlived self. Find a time when you can be alone, a time when you will not be disturbed. Bring your journal and a pen. The first step is to write a eulogy for an unlived self. In your journal, choose one of your ghost selves. Perhaps it is the musician, or the fearless entrepreneur, or the world traveler. Give them a name. And then you will write a short eulogy for them as if you were speaking at their funeral. Answer these questions with as much honesty and compassion as you can. What were their greatest gifts? What were their wildest dreams? Why did they have to be sacrificed? What circumstances, what choices, what fears led to their path not being taken? And finally, what wisdom did they hold? What did they know about life that you have since forgotten? Take your time with this. Let the story be told. Let's imagine Chloe writing a eulogy for Marina, the marine biologist. She writes about Marina's passion for the ocean's mysteries, her dream of living a quiet life of research. She writes about how Marina was sacrificed for a more practical path, for the need to be close to family, for the fear of the unknown. And she realizes the wisdom Marina held was the wisdom of patient observation, of seeing the beauty in small hidden things. The second step is the act of release. After you have written the eulogy, read it aloud to yourself. Let your voice give sound to the words. Let the emotions come. If tears arise, let them fall. They are not tears of regret, they are tears of remembrance, tears of honor. Then you will perform a symbolic act of release. You can carefully tear the page from your journal. You might take it outside and bury it in a potted plant, symbolically turning your grief into nourishment for new growth. Or you can safely burn it, watching the smoke carry the story, the sadness, and a prayer of thanks up to the sky, transforming the grief into light. As you perform this act, you can say a simple phrase: I see you, I thank you, I release you. And this brings us to the final and most vital step. Step 3 is gratitude and reintegration. After the release, the emptiness you feel is sacred, it is fertile. Place your hand on your heart and say, thank you, name of your ghost self, for your wisdom and your sacrifice. And then you ask the most important question of this entire ritual, the question that builds the bridge from the past to the present. What one gift or piece of wisdom from you can I consciously bring into my life starting today? This is where alchemy happens. This is where you reclaim the gold. Chloe, after releasing Marina, asks this question. The answer that comes is not, quit your job and go back to school. The answer is gentle. It is possible. The wisdom of patient observation and seeing the beauty in small things. What is one small, compassionate action she can take? She decides to buy a beautiful book about coral reefs. She decides that next weekend she will take her children to the local aquarium, and instead of just supervising them, she will allow herself to be filled with the same sense of wonder Marina once felt. Do you see? She's not trying to become her ghost self. She is integrating its essence, its wisdom, into the woman she is now. The eulogy honors the past, the release cleanses the present, and the integration plants a seed for the future, a future that is richer, more whole, and more authentically you, because you have had the courage to make peace with all the yous you have ever been. This is how we walk through the gateway. This is how grief becomes our guide.
Today, we walked a tender path together. We stood before the quiet sadness of the unlived life, and instead of turning away in fear or shame, we chose to listen. We chose to honor. We have learned that this specific grief, the kind that whispers to you in the middle of your good life, is not a betrayal of your present. It is a sacred act of remembrance for your past. It is not a sign that you are broken or ungrateful. It is a sign that your soul is seeking wholeness. We have deconstructed the old, frightening idea of grief as a grave that traps you in regret, and we have replaced it with Carl Jung's profound insight: grief as a gateway. A gateway that serves three sacred functions. First, it honors the sacrifices of your past selves, validating their dreams and their importance in your journey. Second, it releases the stagnant, heavy energy of unprocessed sadness, freeing up your life force for the present. And third, it creates a fertile emptiness within you, a sacred space where the seeds of your more authentic future self can finally begin to grow. And most importantly, you now have a tool, a ritual, a safe, conscious, and compassionate way to meet this grief whenever it arises, to write the eulogy, to perform the act of release, and to ask the most vital question: what wisdom can I bring with me into my life today? This is the heart of true shadow work. It is not about digging in the past for the sake of it. It is about reclaiming the lost gold from the past to enrich the soil of your present. Imagine Chloe, our nurse, a few weeks from now. One evening, she sees a documentary about the deep sea, and she feels that familiar melancholic ache for Marina, the marine biologist. The old Chloe would have felt a pang of guilt and quickly changed the channel. But the new Chloe, she does not turn away. She pauses. She places her hand on her heart. She whispers silently, "I see you, Marina. Thank you." And then she continues to watch the documentary, not with a sense of loss, but with a sense of quiet wonder. She has integrated that part of herself. The ghost is no longer a source of pain. It has become an ancestor, a source of wisdom, a quiet reminder of her soul's deep love for mystery, for patience, for the hidden beauty of the world. That is the peace that is available to you. That is the wholeness you are moving toward. This is not a one-time fix. It is a new capacity, a new, more compassionate way of being with the full truth of your own story. You have learned to stand in the gateway between what was, what is, and what can be, and to hold it all with love. But as we honor the sacrifices these past selves have made for us, a new question naturally arises, a deeper question. Who was it exactly that made the choice to sacrifice these parts of you? Who was the one that learned that the artist had to be put away to be practical? Who decided that the adventurer had to stay home to be responsible? Who learned that their own needs were a price too high to pay for love and belonging? It was not the adult you are today. It was a child, a brilliant, adaptable, and loving child who did what they had to do to survive, to stay safe, to be loved. We have now honored the ghosts of the unlived life. It is time to go back and meet the child who created them, not to judge her for her choices, but to finally rescue her, to let her know that the danger is over, that she is safe now, and that she no longer has to be good to be worthy of love. That is the deep, healing work of reparenting our inner child, and that is the journey we will begin in our next conversation. For this week, your invitation is simply to be gentle with yourself. This is tender territory. Your only task is to acknowledge your entire story, the beautiful, the painful, the lived, and the unlived. To affirm this gentle intention, I invite you to join the community in this act of self-acceptance. Share this declaration in the comments below. I am honoring my whole journey. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your tears. They are holy water, nourishing the garden of your soul.